to the 131st episode of the Veritas Fact Finding Series. And this morning, I'm joined by Mr. Sachin Latti. Good morning, Sachin.
Morning, Anthony. How are you?
Excellent.
Awesome.
We're again live. And remember, we're live here. So if you have questions, please ask them, type them into the chat. And we're going on the ground, literally, to speak to professionals in an unscripted, candid video format to discover how we can make better investment decisions. If you're watching and you like what you hear, give us a like and follow us at veritascorp.com. A quick note, disclaimer, this broadcast is not to be taken as investment advice, and participants and or employees of the Veritas Group of companies may own securities discussed in this broadcast. While we love all our guests, and in particular Sach, this session may contain forward-looking statements, investment opinions, and comments that we may or may not agree with. Now, I want to take a moment. I want to introduce you to Sachin here. We've met really early this year, and I'm going to let Sachin tell his story because I'm not going to do it justice. But what I want to do to provide some context here is, we thought if you're listening and said, well, we've had industry professionals, we've had economists, we've had professors. But when I think of our industry, which is about making investments, there's a certain mindset that's required. And in my experience, it requires focus, it requires attention to detail, and it requires passion. And, people said to me, why is it that when you decided, because our organization on the Veritas Foundation side decided to back Sach and provide him with the structure so that he could get his feet moving across Canada. I looked in his eyes and I said, here's a man who has passion, who's driven, and has a purpose. And I believe that he could do what he had set out to do. And I want to share that with you today because I think that story is going to help in all aspects of our lives, not just in what we do in investments, but in how we live our day-to-day lives. So with that, Sachin, why don't you take a moment and introduce us to your life?
Yeah, thanks for the introduction, and thanks for the opportunity to share and explain a bit about what we're doing and how I've gotten here. So I started off in law enforcement, 18 years in law enforcement, and approximately 5 years ago during the right in and around the pandemic time, I obviously started struggling with various different things. I was going through a divorce. 18 years in law enforcement started taking its toll on me from a mental health perspective. And the pandemic. So all these different things at the same time came into my life and knocked me down in a way that I hadn't expected. So in a way to try to find a way out of, the depths of which I found myself, I tried to find opportunities to get myself out. So it might sound strange, but I wasn't much of a reader, and I started reading, started to listen to podcasts, and I tried to start finding ways to move in a positive direction rather than a negative one, which I started finding myself in. Really depressed, severe anxiety, wasn't sleeping. A lot of these kind of sort of symptoms were happening to me. And so through that process of learning and adapting and trying to find ways to do better, I started running. And I wasn't a runner. I was 18 years in law enforcement. I did understand how to work out and, go to the gym and things like that. But to the extent in which I entered into, didn't have that knowledge. So I started, slowly running small amounts. And I started to see how that was helping my mental health. And then I thought, man, if this is helping me, how can I leverage what I'm doing to help other people? And that's kind of what started everything.
And Sachin, I think your camera turned off. I don't know why that happened, but we can no longer see you.
Okay, well, we're going to fix that up right now. Let's go to the... He's going to swap back to that. There, how's that?
Perfect. So here you are, and law enforcement stuff. You put that together with the family breakdown. You obviously, I know you have a daughter, which also affected the whole situation. Then COVID, we're in lockdown, and you start running, and you go. Look, running is good. I've run. It's very therapeutic, but to run and then to say, look, I'm going to run across Canada to raise awareness. Like, how does that work? How does that happen?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question, man. Like, I don't know. I guess fundamentally, I've always wanted to do something. I've always been a person that wanted to do something positive. I just didn't really understand how to do it. And really, as I started running, really the running was more of an avenue of me to learn how to do other things better, not just the running. So as I entered into the space, I've obviously first learned how to run, but when I started thinking about leveraging what I was doing for other people, then it got me to into a place of fundraising, social media, understanding maybe business a little bit better, like how to do things better, and obviously not to the level of many other people, but it got me in that space or that way of thinking. And from the first time I really did anything notable was in 2021. So during the pandemic, the Poppy Fund, which raises money for veterans and RCMP members with mental health related issues, was really hit hard. They weren't receiving any money because of the pandemic, because that's how they generated a lot of their funding. So I thought, okay, maybe I could do something to help them and raise a little bit of money. So that got me into a space of, okay, how do I fundraise? How do I do that? So I started exploring social media. And so from November 2021 is when I did this run, but from August to November, I did fundraising. And I had never done anything like that before. So that entered a new space. How do I fundraise? How do I connect with people? How do I do networking? How do I get into the media space? And very entry level, basically cold calling and doing a lot of that. And what ended up happening, November 7th, 2021, I ended up running 100 kilometers, trained myself, and during the summer of that year, and ran from a town in British Columbia called Chilliwack, because I'm from the Vancouver area. Ran from Chilliwack to the Vancouver airport, and it was 100 kilometers. Just did that in under 15 hours. And but the more notable part for me, at least, is the fact that we raised $21,000 in one day. And so that really got me thinking, okay, wait a second, maybe there's something here. And so I started leaning into that more. And I thought, so it was more of a progression of events that led me to where we are today. So the following year, I thought, okay, how do we scale that? How do we do more compared to what I did the previous year? So in 2022, I scheduled myself to run 9 ultra marathons in 9 months. And an ultra marathon is 50K or more in one race. And so I did those. And now, having said that, I I hadn't even ran a 5K race before. I hadn't been in a race. I thought in December of
Since high
20,
school. I love
yeah,
that
right.
part.
You know what I mean? So I
You're
registered for
actually
nine.
a workout guy. You were lifting weights.
Yeah, well, I was lifting weights and I was doing jujitsu, man. So I had no clue of like what that space was. So I had to learn. And so I registered for 9 ultra marathons in the previous year in December of 2021, and I registered for all of them. And each of those events, each of those running, I obviously explored, I networked, I met new people, I learned, and by the end of the year, we raised about another 16, 17,000 for charity. Again, supporting people. So year after year, I would do those things and I would learn more and how to do things better year after year. And so that's what essentially got me to where we are today. I got to a level where I was doing it on my own and I wanted to figure out how to do it bigger and better, which allowed me to meet more people, such as yourself and the people that are on my team now, to bring them along or at least assist me to help me make it to the point where we are today.
Yeah. And I think it's just, our how we met is interesting. Where I'm not even sure. How did you find out about us?
Well, it's funny because part of the things I was doing, I was saying yes to everything. So if someone say, "Hey, I'm doing this," someone would invite me for like masterminds, people like phone calls and these different, network kind of meetings, and I would say yes to all of them because I had no clue. I worked for the government for 18 years. I didn't do any of these things, so I wanted to learn. And so I met tons of different salespeople, tons of different business type people, and through these things, I heard about Veritas, and I got connected with you guys through that network of people, and then we started having conversations and went from there.
Yeah. And so basically what we've done to make everybody understand is we provide all the plumbing and the administration that allows Sachin to raise money for his cause. And, I think that because we had this discussion as we've gotten closer speaking, there's a difference between mental health and mental illness. And I think setting that stage is important. And maybe you can do that for us.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, the way I look at it is like mental illness is something that is likely requires some intervention, external, maybe medical attention, hospitalization, perhaps. Mental health is just your ongoing wellness, right? So if you're looking at like your physical health, you should also be looking at your mental health. People go to get their massage, people go to get the gym, go to the chiropractor, physio, whatever, all these types of things. And to be able to manage your mental health so that you're moving forward in a positive direction day by day, I think you also have to pay attention to that. And what are the things that you need to do to manage that as well? Well, that, through my experience is obviously, conversations, connection with people, physical activity. People separate physical activity and mental health. Like the physical health and mental health are intertwined. They're one and the same. You can't separate them. So if one is doing not well, the other one is likely being affected by it as well. So that's kind of how I look at it. And it's, I think a lot of the studies starting to come out now are revealing that as well.
And you've made this comment. You said it to me. There's three things, and it's kind of like it's a mental gym that you need to do to maintain the mental health, the same way you maintain your physical health. And what are those three things?
Yeah, and it's become very clear over the last 60 days because we've had these tons of conversations with many, like thousands of people. And what a lot of people are lacking and could use is community, connection, and movement. And if you implement those three things into a person's life, I think you'll see a drastic improvement in people's mental health. And we're seeing it. I've seen it in my own self. I've seen it amongst friends and colleagues, and even the people that now we're engaging with. Um, Community connection and movement is fundamental.
Let's talk about what it's like. You put your foot in the ground. It was June 16th. You put your foot in the Pacific, out on Victoria Island there, right?
Yeah.
And you started running. It's talk to us what the first few days have been like,
Yeah.
or were like, and compared to where you are today.
Yeah. So, you know, um, eh, this is saying like no first plan goes without adjustment or first contact. Like you gotta adjust, right?
I love some of the stories. Go ahead.
Right. So when I first started, the whole goal was okay. I'm gonna hammer for 75 days, 100 kilometers a day, and just do this endurance thing and raise a ton of money and this, that, and the other. It was kind of like really almost really focused on me in a certain type of way. And that was the plan. That's what I planned for. That's what I trained for, all of it for years. And then what we started noticing within the first 3, 4 days was we probably need to make an adjustment because as we're driving the RV, now the RV is fully deckled out, it's fully wrapped, it says mental health on it. It's basically a moving billboard where people see it and people who are attracted to it want to engage. And if I'm running 100 kilometers a day, I'm limited on the type of engagement I'm going to do. I have to stay highly focused and be dialed in and keep moving, not having conversations. And people were stopping us on the side of the road. People were having conversations with us. People would drive us off the road just to have conversations. So it became very clear that we couldn't stick with the 100 kilometers because we essentially what we were doing is we were running past people, and what we really wanted to do is run to people. So our team sat down together and thought, okay, how do we do this better? How do we make this right? And we sat down, we had a conversation, said, okay, we're going to have to adjust the whole campaign and change the entire messaging on all platforms. And what we're going to do is run an ultra marathon a day, which is still significant, which is about 50 kilometers. And what that allows me then to do is slow down, have conversations, engage with people, allow people to join me. And then also with this RV, we could hold space for people and have conversations. And at the very least, people could unload their burden if they need to with some guys and a group that is willing to listen.
And if you just take your personal background, you weren't were you born in Canada?
Yeah.
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 And but it's kind of odd, right? Yourself and Glenn, we talked about this, two guys in an
Yeah.
RV decide we're going to run across the country.
Yeah.
And what is it? What has it been like? You said that you've now run two people,
Yeah.
and and it's interesting how you said when you started to run, you were running 100K. That was because you wanted to do it, because that would make Sachin happy and proud. But when you realize that doesn't help everybody else, it kind of distances you from really the goal.
Yeah, I
And
mean, it wasn't really aligned with really the vision and what we're trying to do, right? Because we're talking about mental health, and if not engaging people, and we're moving past them, and what sticks in my head is like if someone came up and said, I really need to talk, I'm struggling today, and if I were to say, oh, I'm sorry, I'm still running, I can't talk to you, it totally defeats the entire purpose of what we're trying to do. And so it was kind of an easy decision, but it was challenging to execute very quickly in a short period of time. So the team did an amazing job, like changing the entire website and all the messaging within, you know, 72 hours, I think it was. And then from there, we've just been, hitting the 50K and having these conversations. We've spoken to approximately 5,000 people, like individual conversations, like actual conversations with people, actually impact on the ground, like legitimate impact.
yeah.
And for us, that's significant.
And why don't you tell us some of the stories you've heard from people, and what mental health is really like? We talk about it a lot, and I like the way you described sort of what can improve people's mental health. But what are some of the stories you've heard across as you put one foot in front of the other across the country?
Yeah, there's been tons of stories. I mean, the first one that comes up into my head is when we were in Kelowna in British Columbia. And this was one of the first instances that got us really thinking about the pivot and how we should be doing things moving forward. And we were engaged with a family in Kelowna. One of the so there was a young man, when I say young man, in his 30s, and he was a baseball coach, kids baseball coach, and he was one of the best baseball coaches in the town. And a lot of the kids looked up to him. And last year, he took his own life through depression. And father of three kids, married, and a brother and a son. And so his brother ended up contacting us, basically saying, "Hey, would you be willing to come by the baseball diamond and talk to the kids and come say hi?" And right away we were like, okay, yeah, that's a no-brainer, absolutely. And fortunately, we made that slight pivot. It allowed us to spend time with them. And we went out there and we had the conversation. And just that alone, the impact from the kids, from the wife, from the parents, from the brother, made a difference in their lives. And so for us, that's just one story out of so many that we've had along this journey. And it's been truly a gift and an honor to be able to be part of this.
How has it made you feel from a standpoint of your own mental health as you're coming up to 3,000 kilometers?
Yeah, I think we're just over it now, but it's transformed me this 60 days. It's absolutely given me a lot more clarity on what I want to do in life. It's given me a peace of mind that I haven't had before. It's given me clear direction and purpose. And for me, I need that purpose. I need that drive. And you mentioned something earlier about seeing passion in my eyes. I've had passion my entire life. I just didn't know how to put it into use and put it in the direction that it can actually impact people at a significant level. Well, now I have that. And with me having passion and now a purpose, I mean, we can move mountains.
Love it. So why don't you talk about sort of what you've seen from the gaps in service that we have in Canada, and things that need to be improved, that you think you can start to with the steps that you're taking now, the things that you can start to see that to help improve our Canadian mental health.
Yeah, I think well, first of all, identifying the piece of connection, movement, and community. Now it's a matter of figuring out how to actually amplify that and implement that on a more um, scalable perspective, like other than this run, right? So we have a lot of ideas and plans for after this run, and it's given us full clarity on the direction in terms of creating a foundation moving forward so that we can actually um, be in almost every city across the country so that we can be of service in ways that I would have never imagined. So one way we could be like setting up community runs across the country, getting people together, getting people outside, and getting people connected through movement. And that's just one idea, right? We have so many different connections that we've made now that with with people across the country, both in the first responder space, or primarily one of the ways is in the first responder space, we've met so many police officers that are also struggling, so many firefighters that are also struggling, so many paramedics that are also struggling. And these are the people that are on our front lines that are actually serving the people. And if they're not 100%, how are we able to have a healthy and safe country? So our focus now is really how do we service these people to get them in a position that they're fully operational and able to help people. Now, people might be thinking who are listening to this, oh, what's wrong with people? Like, what's wrong with first responders? Well, the reality is that the first responders struggle much more than the average public in terms of their mental health based on the jobs that they do, the pressures that they have, and the things that they see. So the suicide rate is significantly higher in this community. The depression rate, the alcohol abuse, the divorce rate, significantly higher than the general population. So we're working towards identifying various different locations so that we can integrate and provide services in these places by creating community connection and movement. Now, how we're going to do that still requires a little more flushing out. My mental bandwidth is a bit occupied right now, but I think as soon as the run is completed, we're definitely going to be sitting down and really outlining exactly how that's going to be done.
That's awesome. Why don't you talk to us about the RV and sort of so your plan, you're coming across the country and so what's gonna happen as after that?
Yeah, so just to speak on the RV, one of the amazing things that's been happening is that people across the country, we have probably over 1,000 now. People have just been signing the RV words of encouragement every single day. I get to see it, right? So that alone has been amazing. But after the run, Glenn, who's my business partner, managing director of the whole project, he's going to drive the RV back across the country, and we're going to do almost like we're calling it a comeback tour, essentially. And we want to be able to engage with different communities across the country as we're coming back, but holding more space, having more conversations, connecting with more organizations and companies, so that we can share what our plans are, what the future goals are, and see if we can get more support moving forward so that we can create something that will have a lasting impact. So for us, what we have planned and what our vision is to create such emotion, to be synonymous with mental health as Terry Fox is with cancer, and as Rick Hans is with people with movement disabilities, right? So that's the vision. Now the execution we're working on, and but the to your question about running after the run, we're going to be doing a comeback tour, stopping off in all the cities that we kind of went into, and then still having those conversations.
You know, obviously we all suffer to a varying degrees with mental health from just, myself, some days it's just foggy. You just want to hide under the pillow and say, I don't want to get up today. And, I know I have kids and I got employees and I got clients and I have so much pressure every day that we got to get through. What do you think that has been the challenge that we really need to break through for people to realize how important this is? When you and I spoke, you described it as the silent killer. We were in Toronto, and I know what part of your pivot has been. Let's do the 50K, running various loops within Toronto, as opposed to just passing through Toronto for one day. You were in Toronto for 4 days or 5 days, pardon, and every day you did 50K, and people ran up to 50K with you step by step on a particular day because they wanted to just gain your energy and feel what that was like. What do you think, Stan, is the key barriers that you see that as a nation, people, or as a people, that we need to break through to really make people aware of how important this mental health is?
I think it's exactly what we're doing right now is having these conversations. I mean, a lot of people may say they have the conversations, but I don't think they truly dive deeper in the conversations to fully understand what the issues are and what they aren't. There are a lot of organizations out there that say certain things, but maybe don't put any action behind them. We're going to be those people who put action behind it, right? And the way we see it, and I've had many conversations with Glenn, who's again the managing director of the project, and we look at mental health as an existential threat. It's an actual threat. Like if you have first responder communities significantly struggling, that affects the entire country, and it affects the safety of the country. It affects the health of the country in many different types of levels. So I think there's people, if they haven't explored this, that's our job to, as such in motion, to have that conversation, to explore it and explain it to people. Like I bet most people don't know the suicide rate for first responders. In 2011, a study was conducted in the United States that revealed that 22 veterans commit suicide. Now, every day,
Every day.
every
Every day.
day, every day. So now, if you were to incorporate, let's say, if you were looking at Canada, first responders and veterans, and when you say first responders, I'm talking about EMS, paramedics, firefighters, police, corrections, all of the sort of service elements. The suicide rate is quite high, right? And there's about 4,000 suicides a year, and 75% of those suicides are done by men. So it's a problem, and people don't talk about it. And I think men are struggling. I think at a significant level, and people aren't talking about it. And I think there has been a shift in culture that might have precipitated some of these challenges, and we want to be a counterbalance to that.
I love it. Um, so let's if you could tell people sort of, what is it that they could do to make their day-to-day life a little bit better? What would that be?
I think a lot of people who might be struggling may not be taking any action, right? A lot of people have great ideas. A lot of people say a lot of things, but don't take any action towards those things. Think, just take some action. Take one step forward in the direction that you want to go in. Whether that be you get up first thing in the morning and make your bed to start the day with some positive action.
Yep.
And that might sound cliche, right? Because like people say, okay, make your bed, whatever, right? But I mean, I started making my bed about 5 years ago, like religiously. And what I started realizing was like, look, if I can't even make my bed, I've already given up on myself for the day, right?
Yep.
So make your bed. Don't give up on yourself. Do the little things right. And I think with the little things, if you do them right, then you build a momentum. And as momentum builds, just as well as anyone else, then you're off to the races at that point.
So true. There's actually a book that I gave to one of my daughters. It's written by an army general it's called "Make Your Bed,"
Hmm.
and talks about how that's like the first step to doing things well. Um, Sachin, I'll just to bring to light the obviously you're raising money, and the story of from a business standpoint of the money raising, I think is important to it actually, and when we had dinner when you were here in Toronto, I think we fleshed out something which I think will resonate with those listening here that are on the investment side and thinking about the way business works, right? So why don't you tell us about how that's gone sort of as you've progressed across the country?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, we're trying to raise funds for various different charities that support mental health for all Canadians across the country, and our goal has been a $1 million fundraising goal. Now, for me, I didn't quite understand what that meant. I threw out a number, and I was like, we're gonna go get after it, and we're gonna see how we're gonna raise it. Now, obviously, it's been a challenge trying to raise that kind of money in terms of donations, and what we've learned is that there are many ways to do it other than just doing it on social media and doing what I have been doing in the past. So, for example, we've been reaching out to various different companies, organizations, you as one of them, requesting, if they're willing to give larger donations so that we can do donation matches so we can hit our numbers a lot higher. So we're just trying to think outside of the box in certain types of ways. So for example, what we're going to be doing on Monday, the 18th, we're going to actually live stream an interactive 50K. I'll be running on a track doing 100 laps, and we're live streaming it. We're going to make it interactive, question and answer. But not only that, we've secured about $18,000 in commitments, and now we're going to do donation matches for that day. So any dollar amount up to that amount will be doubled. So essentially, we can raise $40,000 in one day. So thinking of these types of ways of thinking outside of the box to make it interactive for people, so people can be involved in the actual fundraising effort, and then they can get to know what we're doing, why we're doing it, and actually see what it's like for someone to run 50K on a track and what that looks like. Look, it's not easy, and it'll be unpleasant, and you'll see all of that. So trying to get it more a visceral reaction. I hope that answers the question that you posed, though.
For sure, and maybe I'll help add a little bit of color. When you first started, I think is it fair to say you were a little disappointed? Like it's like, what do you mean we're not raising money? Like what was happening is you're getting people coming out of the woodwork, and they could what they were sharing with you was pain. They couldn't give you money because they didn't have, but what they could give you was the chain you're wearing, the something that they had drawn, something that helped them deal with their own suffering. And meantime, so at the beginning, I think when we have a cause and a purpose, what we do is we bring out the people that share that cause and believe in that cause. As you progress closer to your goal, people will come out that want to be associated with you because it's good for them.
Mm-hmm.
So at the beginning, getting a big corporation or an organization to support you is hard, because if you don't get out of the ground and get it action, you don't get, you don't finish, they could look bad. But if once you're closer to the end, it's like, oh, well, he's going to do it. Of course, I want to be part of this and support the whole cause. Right now, it's easy. When you get closer to the end. So I know we had that discussion. I think those listening here on the investment side, you'll see this in business, right? It's hardest to raise money when you first have an idea for a business. But once you're up and running, well, now everybody wants to give you money and everybody wants to be part of it. But where were you when I was going through and I had the wrong shoes? Remember,
Yeah.
you were how many pairs of shoes have you gone through so
Oh man,
far?
we're close to like probably 10 now at this point. But to your point though, I mean, it's quite valid. Look, I didn't know what I didn't know, right? And
Yeah.
I still don't know a lot, but I'm learning, and we're figuring it out. And I'm trying to get more information and more data from people so I can understand how to do this better. And the reality was, I didn't understand that a business perspective on how to do this, right? And now that we're 60 days into it, we got like 3.5 weeks left, maybe a little bit less. I see the light at the end of the tunnel. This is getting done. It's happening. It's actually, to be honest, it's already done. It's just a matter of time, right? And now we can actually explore the different ways of how to engage with various different donors and organizations to see how we can synergistically benefit out of this, right? If I'm doing something, I'm creating something, and then people can donate and drop $10,000 to help other people. Well, now there's a benefit to them because now we've created something where they will get some shine out of it too in some sort of capacity. So their ROI is impact, right? The impact that we're having. So someone's here's a $10,000 donation. Okay, well, our ROI is going to be the impact that we have on individuals every single day. And we can now identify that, what it looks like, how many lives are going to be saved, how many kids get to play sports, how many people aren't committing suicide, all these types of things. And so now I understand it a bit better. It's more of just framing it a bit better and then delivering it to people in the way that they can consume it.
That's awesome. Anybody has any questions at the before we let Sachin go? Please type them in. Sachin, I always ask my guests, and so this will be very interesting for you, given that you're running. Do you have a special breakfast that you have every day to make sure that you can get through that 50K?
Oh man, that's a great question. I don't recommend what I'm going to suggest to people on the regular because I'm running significant amounts and I'm consuming a lot of calories. But
How many calories a day you said that you burned?
5 or 6 thousand in around there each day. So I'm in deficit. So I've lost about 20 pounds in the last 60 days for sure. I'll probably lose a little bit more. I look, quite a bit different than I did when I started, and I'm in deficit the entire time, which is going to happen. But having said that, I made, what did I have the other day? I had like 4 eggs with like 3 bagels, all cooked in butter, and ate that. The other day, I had a bowl of pasta with ice cream for breakfast. Like just tons of different calories, man. Just consuming as much as I possibly can. Donuts, cookies, all the things.
And what about during your run? What are you eating?
So during the run, so what I'd like to do now is I like to eat a huge meal before I start, and then run about 25 to 30 kilometers with hydration. So I'll be drinking, water with electrolytes and sodium and whatnot during those 30K. And then at the 30K, it feels like for me, I've overcome the first hump. Now it's just downhill. So I got 20 kilometers left. So from a mental perspective, that's what I'm doing. So then at 30, I'll sit down. I'll have like a massive bowl of pasta with, what else? Like right now, I've been on a pasta. I blame it on you, to be honest. Since I came to Toronto, I've been just eating pasta for
Like,
breakfast,
because
lunch, and dinner.
we went out for the Italian dinner. Yeah.
So, but hey, man, it's perfect. We get, I was having pesto on the trip. So one of our DP, director of photography, he's awesome cook too, man. So he made me pesto one day, with pasta, some spaghetti, walnuts with like honey and all. Anyways, I'm eating a lot. It's good.
So, last question. We always ask our guests, any book that you want to recommend that you feel has been impactful to you, especially given how far you've come.
Yeah,
Any
yeah.
comment?
First one that pops to mind is the first book I read. I started taking ownership of my life and all the nonsense that I was doing, and taking responsibility. And it's Extreme Ownership, Jocko Willink. And for those of you who might not know, he's a retired Navy SEAL. He also was, has a leadership program and training and all that kind of stuff. But one of his first books, Extreme Ownership, Jocko Willink.
Love it.
Yeah.
We'll check in with you, Sachin, as you continue on your way. God bless, and keep doing the good thing.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thanks again for the opportunity. And also thank you so much for the support. It's been amazing. Without Veritas, without you, definitely this wouldn't be happening to the way and level that it is. So I want to thank you, and I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you, Sachin. Thanks, everyone. Stay strong.